today we are going to discuss methodological interpretation of fertilizer experiment or economics of fertilization or fertilizer use, response curve fitting or fertilizer yield functions. So these topics are almost similar and they overlap or they complement to each other. I will explain to you how they complement to each other or how they are associated with each other. Whenever we conduct fertilizer experiment, we have several interpretations. We work out the use efficiency of fertilizer, variety of, if you have two fertilizers, you will compare the use efficiency of two fertilizers. If you have different varieties and fertilizer is one, you will compare it. Sometimes method of fertilizer application, sometimes rate and depth of fertilization. Many variables can be compared in fertilizer experiments. So in those cases, you need to work out the economics. So there are many ways to work out the economics of fertilizer, and one way is fertilizer yield functions. And these fertilizer yield functions we get through response curve fitting. Response curve fitting helps us to get the fertilizer yield function or to get the relationship between fertilizer, which is the input, and yield, which is the output. So to get the relationship between these two, we go for response curve fitting. This helps us, response curve fitting. And response curve fitting involves correlation and regression analysis. This response curve fitting involves correlation and regression analysis. So this is how these subjects are related. Economics is very, very important because if we use more doses of fertilizer or excessive use of fertilizer, it is causing environmental pollution and also it is causing economic loss to the farmers. So we need to work out the optimum level of fertilizer. So for this, there are many methods to work out economics of the fertilizer. And one method is simple method is that agronomic use efficiency. Just take case of nitrogen. Nitrogen use efficiency means in terms of agronomy, in terms of yield increase. So most of you know that agronomic use efficiency is equal to yield in a treated plot where you have applied fertilizer minus yield in control and divided by rate of fertilizer application or nutrient application, you can say. Suppose it was nitrogen and you get the value 25. Suppose 25 kg grain per kg nitrogen. Now it is very easy to work out the economics if you keep other factors constant. Now in 1 kg nitrogen you have got the 25 kg grain, and suppose the rate of grain is 10 rupees a kg, then price of output will be 250. Price of output will be 250. And assume that rate of nitrogen, of course it is 11.3 or 12 rupees per kg. Just assume that it is 25 rupees a kg. So the price of output was 250 because due to 1 kg nitrogen you got 25 kilograms of grain, and then you multiply it by 10 rupees a kg, so 250, and rate of fertilizer nitrogen is 25. So 250 divided by 25, then it comes out to be 10. That means by investing 1 rupee in nitrogen, you are getting 10 rupees. So that is simplest economics, you can do it. I will show you in a paper where we have done it, we have calculated it. So simplest. Other way of doing the economics is that you work out the cost of cultivation, the fixed cost of cultivation, which is applicable to all fertilizer treatments. Assume that you are conducting a fertilizer experiment, and in that experiment you have 5 fertilizers level, say 0, 50, 100, 200, 250, 300, something like that. You have different fertilizer levels and you will get yield, respective yield from this. So some cost will be common to all the treatments, which is known as cost of cultivation. So you can work out the cost of cultivation. Suppose it is 30,000 rupees per hectare for each treatment. This is a common cost which is applicable to all the treatments. And then in addition to that, you have fertilizer as a variable factor. So in this case, you can work out the price of fertilizer or cost of fertilizer which was involved. For zero cost, then for 50, for 100, for 200 kg nitrogen, what will be the cost? And then you add this variable cost of fertilizer to the common cost of cultivation. So that way you will get the total cost of cultivation, including the cost of the treatment. And then you will get output, you will get the yield. With each level of fertilizer, certain yield you will get. And you can work out the price, price of the output. Output may be grain and extra both. So you see how much money you can earn. So that will be your total returns. That will be called as total returns. So then you can subtract uh, cost of cultivation from the total returns to get the net returns. Then you will get net returns. So net return is your benefit. And then you can work out the BC ratio. So then you can compare different treatments. This is how we do in agronomy to work out the benefit cost ratio. So this is another way of doing the economics of fertilizer. Other way is to work out the fertilizer yield functions, because it has been established that fertilizer and yield have most of the time, 99 times or 99% times, they get quadratic relationship. If it is there, then you can work out the economics. You can know the optimum level of the nutrient, where you get maximum profit. So this is how all these things we are going to discuss. And in this case, you will see. So these are the references, friend. You can see them. And uh, in this case, Gomez and Gomez book is good. Many of you have. If you do not have, send me your email. I will send you the link to download this book. Or you can, if you like, you can have a hard copy of this book. But this is a must-have book for agronomy student especially. Estimating fertilizer requirement, already given you the reference. And soil fertility evaluation control, black, already you know about it. And one paper is there by Munson, the economics of fertilizer use in crop production. I have a copy of this. Anybody interested can make me a request. I can send you by email. And then today, overall, what we are going to learn is fitting of response curve. We will try to understand what is response curve and how you fit it. Then the difference in correlation and regression analysis, and how this knowledge can be used in response curve fitting. And fitting the linear and quadratic equations or models or curves separately. So in this case, I want to tell you here, the meaning of equation, model or curves is same. And generally these days people are calling it models. In the days of Mr. Lick, he simply called it as equation. But once you have equation, that can be easily converted into a curve. Based upon values of x and y or variables, you can make a curve from this data. From any equation, you can plot a curve. So mostly now people call it modeling or models. And then if it is quadratic model, then we can determine the optimum dose of fertilizer. We'll see what are the important uses of response curves and fitting of response curves in Excel. This is where we will require Excel. But I have tried to copy the Excel shorts and put it in PowerPoint so that we will not require Excel here. And then interpretation of results obtained in Excel and finding the best response curve. Sometimes your data may show that you can fit any kind of curve. Then how to choose the best one, that will be discussed. So this is the outline of today's practical. I will call it practical. So now it has been definitely a question that how much fertilizer should be applied? What are the optimum levels of fertilizers where you get the maximum returns per rupee invested? People tried visual plant diagnostic and deciding the deficiency symptoms, but it cannot guide you that how much fertilizer should be applied. Similarly, plant tissue tests, qualitative tests can tell you whether a nutrient has low, medium or high status of the nutrient, but it cannot guide us to decide the quantity of the fertilizer. Then plant chemical analysis, same way, it is also not that much useful. And then critical values concept came, it is again cannot guide us how much fertilizer to be applied. And then soil chemical analysis, soil testing, you can know that how much nutrients are available. But we cannot know easily that how much nutrients can be made available to the crop from the available nutrient in the soil, because that will vary with the kind of plant species you are growing, kind of soil you have, kind of climate you have. There are so many factors. Then people thought, let us do some pot experiment and see how much contribution can come from the soil. So it is again not the right or real representative of situations in the field. Pot experiment give you general idea, but they cannot be extrapolated for field experiments. So field experiments are definitely the answer, where we can see how much contribution can come from soil, how much nutrient how much nutrients can be supplied from soil, and these are very, very important to decide the optimum level of fertilizer. Uh, there are two kind of experiments, simple and complex, where we have single nutrient, then it is a simple. If we have two or three factors, then it becomes your complex experiment. Maybe dose of the fertilizer, time of application, method of application. If you combine two, three variables, then it becomes complex experiment. Or if you take two or more nutrients, it also becomes a complex fertilizer experiment. Assume that you have conducted a fertilizer experiment with different levels of a nutrient. Most of the time I will refer to nitrogen. Okay, so nutrient means I will take nitrogen. So fertilizer experiment is conducted and results are obtained. You have used different levels of nitrogen, and then you have seen the statistical analysis. F test has been done, and you have seen the significance of the treatment. If your results are significant, means if your fertilizers are genuinely affecting or influencing the grain yield or yield of the crop, then we call it results are significant. And if your results are significant, data is significant, then one can go for correlation and regression analysis. With the help of correlation and regression analysis, you are actually fitting the response curve.
Not audible, sir.
Now,
Sir, you are not audible.
okay, okay. Should I start from where to start? Fertilizer experiment? All right. So you are conducting fertilizer experiments with different doses of the fertilizer, or maybe methods of application combined with it, or anything you can combine. It can be in factorial mode also, or just simple RBD. So fertilizer experiment is conducted and you get some results. You have different levels of nitrogen, say 0, 50, 100, 150, 200 and so. And you have seen that the treatments are significant. The influence of fertilizer is significant. Sorry. Statistical analysis says that the results are significant, and then you can go for correlation and regression analysis. And this is what we call response curve fitting. You will understand it in detail, and then some economic principles can be employed to find out the optimum dose of fertilizer. So overall, this subject will cover the knowledge from agronomy, knowledge from soil science, knowledge from statistics and economics. All these subjects are combined into one. So now let us start with response curve. What is response curve? And if you do not get any point in this, you can stop me and discuss with that point. Because if you do not understand a particular point, then you will not be able to learn many things in the subsequent slides. So better to get clarification immediately. If things are clear, okay. If you have any problem, you just stop me and I will clarify, and then we will move further. So let us start with response curve. What is response curve? It is a functional relationship between input and output, and that will be a response function. Means you have input and output. How physically they are related. That is your response curve. Equation can be represented in a graphical form. If you have a relationship between two variables, then that can be easily uh, represented or easily made into a graph. Relationship between yield and fertilizer rate is fertilizer yield function with a general mathematical form. Usually people call it model. Model estimated from experimental data will give a realistic mathematics representation of the biological relationship indicated by the data. Means y is equal to fx. So y is the function of x, and x can be one, x can be many. X is independent variable and y is dependent variable. So in this case, so far response curves is concerned, relationship between dependent and independent variable is concerned, there are different kind of curves or different kind of equations. So equations and curves are same. Curves are the just graphical representation of equation. So you have first degree curve, which is generally linear, a linear relationship, and name of the curve is straight line. Second degree means power 2, x power 2 is quadratic relationship, and the curve is parabola. Third degree is cubic, and curve is cubic parabola, and so on. So it goes on, and a production function or response function is a mathematical expression that describes the physical relationship between input and output. The relationship can be expressed as y is equal to x1, x2, x3, and xn. So this is a kind of response equation where there is mathematical relationship or quantitative relationship between two variables. One is dependent and other can be independent. Independent variable can be one or many. Then the polynomial of degree 1 is a linear response, is a straight line. I think just now we have seen that if you have x power 1, then it is a linear equation or linear graph, and it is actually represented by a straight line. Then polynomial of degree 2, 3, 4, 5 are curvilinear, or you can call them non-linear. Non-linear or curvilinear is the same thing. Curvilinear or non-linear in nature, representing versions of the law of diminishing return. These polynomials of power 2, 3, 4, they represent actually law of diminishing return, which is very, very fundamental. Economic interpretation are made from these functions. Procedures for fitting different response functions to experimental data are available. Means you have got the data and how to fit, how to develop an equation, how to develop a relationship. Such methods are already available. Those methods we are going to discuss today. So what happens in response curve fitting? Response curve fitting means first you need to fit the linear equation. We will deal with two kind of equation. One is linear response, other is non-linear and quadratic, that is quadratic response. So in this, what steps we need to learn? How to start from A and how to end at Z. That is how it starts from fit the linear equation. First of all, we need to fit the linear equation. Later on, you will know what is fitting the linear equation. What does it mean? I will explain to you. But just for the time being, you remember that we need to fit the linear equation. Then we need to test the linearity of the equation. Whether that particular equation that was fitted is statistically a linear equation, is genuinely a linear equation, we need to test it. Certain statistical tests are employed to test the significance of the linearity. And then we will plot the linear response curve. Means once we have found out the equation, we have tested it, then we will make a graph of this equation. Means plotting the linear response curve. And then from this data, we will compute the coefficient of correlation, coefficient of determination, and we will see how they are important, where they are important, and why we work out the correlation coefficient, and coefficient of determination. What is their utility? We will see it. And then we also test this significance of correlation coefficient. So it is also tested at the scale of statistics, whether the correlation coefficient is significant or not. It has to qualify the test of significance, this correlation coefficient. So we will see what kind of test is done to test the significance of correlation coefficient. We will also learn in detail what is inferences of coefficient of determination. What is the difference between correlation coefficient and coefficient of determination? So this is how we will go for response curve fitting in linear response, and then similarly almost same kind of operations will be done in quadratic response curve. But in quadratic response curve, we will add one more thing, that is determination of optimum dose of the fertilizer. Because from linear response curve, we cannot know the ideal dose or ideal quantity of fertilizer. So this is actually to expose you to the topic, and you can still learn more and more on this subject. And I tell you, this is very important subject, particularly when you write your thesis. This knowledge can help you a lot. You will realize later that how much important this knowledge is. Uh, you can use in this knowledge anywhere. If you have correct idea and correct idea and knowledge how best to apply it, then it can be used everywhere. In our daily life also, we can use this knowledge. So friend, first question come, then why there is need to go for response curve fitting? Why it is required at all? Question comes. Now you see on x-axis you have fertilizer, say nitrogen levels. On y-axis you have the yield. Actually, you have conducted a fertilizer experiment where you have recorded certain quantity of yield against the each treatment. At 0, you must have obtained the yield, and it is represented by blue circle. You can see the blue circle. It shows you yield at control, yield at 0. Then another blue circle shows you yield at 50. Another blue circle shows you yield at 100, and another shows you at yield at maybe at 40, whatever it is. You have certain fertilizer levels and you have recorded the yield. So main problem here is that if you predict, if you want to know what will be yield at 30 kg, you cannot. You cannot know unless you join these points. If you can join circle number 1 to circle number 2, circle number 3, if you can join it, then you can make predictions. Here, this is the actual data. This is the original data that you have recorded from the field. So here, you want a line. You want a line that can represent this data. You need a line that can represent the data, and once we can find a representative line of this data, then that will be a regression line. That will be called as a regression line, or a fit line that best fit this data. That will be the best fit line, because you have no power to join these points artificially. Artificially, we cannot join these points. We need to find out a line which can represent all these 4 data very well. That is the purpose, and that is known as response curve fitting. So you can fit a line, you can find a line to represent this data. Like, I usually give the example of a tailor. You have a cloth, and you want to get your shirt stitched by a tailor. So you will go to the tailor, and the tailor will take your measurements. He will measure your neck, he will measure your hands, he will measure your chest and this belly and everything and length, and then he will cut it, and you will ask him that shirt should be the best fit. It should come to my body in a best fit. Similarly, we need to find a line by measurements, by doing certain measurements, to find the most ideal line. And that is all correlation and regression analysis. By the procedure of regression analysis, we can find out this line. We can find out, is there any question at this point of time? No?
Sir.
So you,
No,
No,
you,
sir.
go, you got the meaning of this? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, now we go to response curve fitting. Response curve fitting means how to find that line, how to find the best representative line. That is your response curve fitting, like Taylor. How he will do it? He will take a pita, he will take a scale, this plastic kind of thing, measuring tape, and then from that he will measure. Similarly, we do mathematical measurements here to find out the response curve, the best response curve. So actually, no straight line passes exactly through all the point, although many can be drawn. See, you can remember you can see in the last case, there may not be a single line which can be very straight. No line can go straight in this case. So no straight line passes exactly through all the points, although many can be drawn. Many line can represent this data. So we need to find a straight line which fits all points better than others. So that will be the best fit. In other language, what value of A and B in equation we must take? Actually, we are talking about linear relationship. The equation is y is equal to a plus bx. So we need to develop this relationship, means we need to find out the value of A and B. So if we find out the value of A and B and put it in the equation, so that particular line will be the best fit. That particular line will be the best fit. So can we devise a measure of all closeness of the fit of various lines which can be drawn? It is also possible that data follow the diminishing kind of curve, wherein no linear regression would be fit. So it is not always there that this particular data will always show a linear relationship. Sometimes your data can show you other kind of relationship which may be curvilinear. The response curves are fitted by using method of least square. This is important. Means to find out value of A and B, we are using the method of least squares. So we need to understand method of least square. Actually, there are two different methods. One method is Fisher and Yates method. Fisher and Yates method is used when your input interval is equal. When your input interval is equal, means 0, 50, 100, 150. If your input level is unequal, say 0, 10, 50, and 70, and 75, and 120, something like that, then you cannot use Fisher and Yates method. So then what method is left? This is method of least square. So method of least square is applicable in both cases, whether your input levels are constant or common or same, or whether means the difference in them is same or different. So unequal interval, you can use method of least square. Equal interval in the input, you can use the same method of least square. So it is applicable in both cases. So now let us see what is method of least square to find out value of A and B, or to find out this line. So a statistical method used to determine a line of best fit. A line of best fit by minimizing the sum of squares created by a mathematical functions. Means you will find out the sum of square of distance from the line. A square is determined by squaring the distance between a data point and the regression line. I will explain you, maybe in the next slide you will get more clear the meaning of this. So this is how you can understand the method of least square. See, I cannot use pen actually here. I cannot use pointer. So I'm not able to explain with the help of pointer or something like that. But I have made different colors. So now on the left picture, left graph, you see there are 4 data points represented in blue color. You are seeing them in blue color. There are 4 data points. They are average of replications. They are average of replications. And in this case, I can draw many number of lines. many lines can be drawn to represent this data. But which one is the best line? We need to decide. And the best line will be, just you see in the right side, in the right picture, picture number 2, you see there are different data points represented in blue. And this is the best fit line. You can see the line, and you can see the distances between the data point and the line represented by red color. So you can see some data points are above the line and some data points are below the line. So this line is actually also called as regression line or predicted line or best fit. So the distance between these points from data point to line is your actually error, or is your residual, So you can measure these distances. You can measure these distances and make the total. But problem here is that the values above the line, the difference will be positive. Difference of observed value, the blue ones, and the predicted value, the line, will be positive. But if you make a difference between the values or data points which are lying below the line, there are 3 in number in this case. You can see 3 data points. And from this, if you subtract the value of the data from the line, then it will be negative, because these points are lying below the line. These 3 points are lying below the line. So if you take the difference of actual data and the predicted line data, then this difference will be in minus. So how to solve this problem? To solve this problem, you can square these values. So square the values, the difference of observed and actual value, observed and your predicted values, which are lying above, square and take the total. And similarly for the points which are below, you make the difference and square and make the total. So this will be total sum of square. Total sum of square of distances. Total sum of square of distances can be worked out. And the line which is giving us the least value, the minimum value of total sum of square of distances, will be the best fit. I repeat it, the line which will give us the least value or minimum value of total sum of square of distances. So you have these distances, take the difference of the data, and then you square it and make the total of all the values, and then see which line is giving us the lowest value or least values of the sum of square. That will be the best fit. So now you come to the left side. There may be many equation can be drawn, can represent this data, but best is represented by the black one here. The black one is you see, is close to all the points. You can see visually also, is close to all the points, and see the red one. It is just passing through one data. And you see the green one. It is far away from the first data point. Of course, so it is not a good representative. So in this case, black line, and this line particularly is the best fit. Now you see residuals. I have explained to you that data which has been represented by the line is okay, and then the difference between the actual data and predicted data is residual. Means the section which remained unrepresented is your error or residual. Means in regression analysis, the error is the difference in the observed value, the values which are there on this line against a particular value of x. The values which are there on this line against the particular value of x are your predicted values. Predicted value or simulated value or hypothesized value. And the blue ones are your actual value. And values on this line where this x is there, so that is your predicted values. So observed values or actual values minus predicted values, that will give you residuals or your error. So residual is actually the distance of a point from the curve. So here this red line is representing your residuals. And now in statistics, residuals also got value. These statistician people will never sit idle. They will do several tests of residuals also. And then again some residuals will left and they will start statistics. So it is never ending process, this statistics. Then just in brief, I want to tell you the difference in correlation and regression. What are these correlation? I think in simpler words, correlation means the relationship between two variables or a kind of association between two variables is your correlation. So it provides a measure of the degree of association between the two variables, how closely two variables are related. That is done by correlation analysis. A mutual relationship or connection between two or more things is also correlation. Correlation is a statistical technique that can show whether and how strongly pairs of variables are related. First thing is whether two variables are related, you need to test it. If they are related, means they are correlated. And then see the strength of relationship or the degree of relationship that is told by the correlation coefficient. Correlation coefficient. Now, next is your regression analysis. Regression analysis describes the effect of one or more variable, that is independent variable, on single variable, dependent variable, by expressing the latter as a function of the former, means y is equal to fx. To know it, we go for regression analysis. For example, in experiment on yield response to nitrogen, yield is a dependent variable and nitrogen rate is an independent variable. That means mathematical relationship, quantitative relationship between two levels, two variables is your regression analysis. So let us see dependent and variable and independent variable. The variable to be predicted or modeled is called y. That is dependent variable or a response variable. Means it is the result. Is it the result of independent variable? And the variable used to predict or model y are called independent variable and are denoted by symbols so and so. So actually independent variable is the cause and dependent variable is the result or effect. So I think you understand in fertilizer yield, your fertilizer is independent variable and your yield is dependent variable. So many times it is up to you to decide which one you want to take independent variable and which one you want to take dependent variable. It depends many times upon your choice. For example, if you take uh, leaf area index. So leaf area index can be influenced by many independent variables. Leaf area index can be result of photosynthesis rate. It can be a result of number of leaves on the plant, and so many things. Independent variable can affect the individual leaf size, the dependent variable leaf area index. So it depends upon your choice. You can consider, for example, sometimes you can consider nitrogen uptake as an independent variable and plant height as dependent variable. Or you can take N uptake or N concentration in leaves as independent variable and nitrogen uptake as dependent variable. So it's up to you. For example, you have variables like plant height and your dry matter accumulation, plant height and dry matter accumulation. So in this case, you can take any variable. For example, if I consider, okay, dry matter will decide the plant height. So I can take plant height as dependent variable and dry matter as independent variable. If I think that taller plant will have more dry matter, then I can keep this dry matter as dependent variable and height as independent variable. So many times it depends upon our choice how we want to decide it. But in general, in fertilizer yield function, yield is dependent variable and your fertilizer is your independent variable. Now, a correlation exists between two variables when one of them is related to the other in some way. A scatter plot is, in the beginning, you go for a scatter plot where you see the trend in data. You get the data is in pairs, x and y, x1, y1, x2, y2, x3, y3. Data is in this form, and you can plot a scatter plot and then you can see the trend in the data. And you can also work out the correlation coefficient to see the strength of relationship between these two variables. And correlation coefficient was first time developed by Pearson. Carl Pearson was the person, and it is also called as Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. Sometimes it is also called as linear correlation coefficient. So it is known by different names, correlation coefficient. It tells the strength or degree of relationship between two variables. Then we go for many times you see simple correlation, simple regression, multiple correlation and multiple regression. So this terminology is there. Simple means simple correlation or regression means only two variables are involved. One variable is independent, other variable is dependent. When we analyze correlation and regression only for two variables, one independent, other dependent, then it is simple correlation analysis or simple regression analysis. Similarly, if two or more variables are affecting a dependent variable, then it will be multiple correlation or multiple regression analysis. So you can see correlation can be of different kinds. So one kind of correlation is positive correlation. On the left side, you can see positive correlation. When your value of x is increasing on the x-axis, so is the value of y. Means both are increasing. Both the variables are increasing. So this is a positive correlation. And when also both variables are decreasing, then also you will have positive correlation. Another case, the second picture on the right side, you can see one is increasing, other is decreasing. If x is increasing, y is decreasing. So this kind of relationship is negative correlation. And it is many times you can see under field conditions. For example, today we have some soil sciences students. We can say Olsen P, phosphorus, available phosphorus in soil generally increases with decrease in pH. If you decrease the pH, if you decrease the pH, the phosphorus availability increases, or if you increase the pH, phosphorus availability decreases. Generally, means just to explain to you what is negative correlation, means one variable is increasing, other is decreasing. So this is negative correlation on the right side. And there may be a situation where there may not be any trend in the scatter plot. The data in this picture, you can see there is no trend. So this is kind of no correlation. Many times two variables may not be related also. It is not always necessary. Now we go to regression. Now you have some idea, at least some idea about correlation and what is correlation and what is positive, negative correlation, and what is no correlation, and strength of correlation is measured by correlation coefficient. Now we try to understand regression. What is regression? Many times teachers ask you what is the difference in correlation and regression. So regression, you can remember, you can mug up the first line, that amount of change in one variable associated with a unit change in other variable. That is simply in the simplest form, it is known as regression. Regression means amount of change in one variable associated with a unit change in the other variable. If you make a unit change in x variable, independent variable, then how much is the change in dependent variable, that is y. To know it, we go for regression analysis, and this is known as regression. So it is actually nature of relationship. Regression is a nature of relationship between two variables. So correlation refers to the fact that two variables are related and closeness of their relationship. However, regression tells us the nature of relationship. See these sayings. A penny saved is a penny earned. A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. A stitch in time saves 9. One picture is worth 1,000 words. So you can see these sayings are showing some numerical relationship between two variables. One is affecting the outcome of the other. A penny saved is a penny earned. Means here 1x is equal to 1y. Another case, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. So here 1y is equal to 2x. Third case, a stitch in time saves 9. Here 1y is equal to 9x. And one picture is 1,000 word. Here y is equal to 1000x. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Can you
Yes,
see
Yes,
me?
sir.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you. Continue. Now you see in this table, you can see on the left side you have independent variable, which is just in this case it is represented by hands words. Yeah, I made it. I made it. Hands words and stitch in time pictures, pennies earned bush in. So you see we can make it in the form of a regression equation. In first case y is equal to 1x. In second case y is equal to 2x, y is equal to 9x, 1000x. So here you can see it is the quantitative mathematical relationship or numerical relationship between two variables. This is your regression equation. So here values of 1, 2, 9 and 1000 are actually your regression coefficient. This is known as regression coefficient. So regression coefficient, and you will also know something about intercept. So column 3 in the last table you have seen, it was regression equation 1x is 1y is equal to 1x something. These are equalities of a straight line. These are actually straight lines. The general equation for a straight line is y is equal to a plus bx. The symbol a is called the intercept. Intercept means if you do not have any nutrient, any fertilizer, any control, then without this is actually contribution from the soil in case of fertilizer. Means without fertilizer you get value A, which is known as intercept. When x has the value of 0, then y is equal to A. Hence the line crosses the y-axis at the unit of from the origin. If your A is 0, but normally A is not 0 under fertilizer trans. When A is 0, the line passes through the origin for when x is equal to 0 and y is also equal to 0. Regression coefficient and intercept. The symbol B is called the slope since it determines the steepness of the slope. You got equation y is equal to a plus bx. So A is intercept and B is regression coefficient. B is also called as regression coefficient, which is also known as slope of the line. It is actually change in y due to change in x. Delta y upon delta x is your B. B is your regression coefficient. Higher the values of B, steep is the line, and lower the value of B, shallower is the line. The deep line will come only when you have high values of B, and shallow line means it is close to x-axis. And if it is far away from the x-axis, then it is a deep line or a steep line. So it is easy to see that B is the amount of change in y associated with a unit change in x. Therefore, it is logical to call B the regression coefficient. So this B is actually regression coefficient. Now we start this linear relationship in detail. So many times we observe linear relationship, and linear relationship between any two variables is a linear if the change is constant. If you get constant change with the addition of each unit of input, with the additional units of the input, you get the same change. Then it is a kind of linear relationship represented by y is equal to a plus bx, where a is the intercept and b is the regression coefficient. I just told you regression coefficient is the delta y upon delta x. Now, if the intercept of a is 1 and the linear regression coefficient is 2, means y is equal to 1 plus 2x, y is equal to 1 plus 2x. The relationship is expressed by y is equal to 1 plus 2x with the two parameters of the linear relationship a and b specified. So in this case, we have specified that value of a is 1 and value of b is 2. The value of the dependent variable y corresponding to a given value of the independent variable x within the range of x values considered can be immediately determined by replacing x. Suppose this was a fertilizer experiment and you have used different levels, say 0, 50, 100, 200, something like that. then you can make predictions from this equation. Just change the, because equation is y is equal to 1 plus 2x, and then in place of x you can put 30, you can put 40, you can put 70, any level within the range. Suppose you are the highest level was up to 150. So within this range from 0 to 150, you can make predictions. When there is more than one independent variable, say k independent variable, the simple linear functional form of equation will be y is equal to a plus b1 x1 b2 x2, something like that. So here you have more than one variable, independent variable, which is affecting a dependent variable. So this is multiple regression. This is multiple regression. Now we see the regression analysis for linear relationship. It tries to fit a model to one dependent variable based on one or more independent variable. In most cases, there will be an error. The residual will be there. The goal is to minimize the error. To minimize the residual means the goal should be that line should come to all the points, all the original points as close as possible. As close as possible. The goal is to minimize the errors from the actual data to the regression line. The least squares, already told you what is method of least square. The least square line minimizes the sum of square of errors. The regression equation or line helps to predict the values of the dependent variable based on the given values of independent variable. So once you fitted the lines, once you have found out the line, or once you have found out the equation or model or curve, then you can very easily make predictions, very easily make predictions. So whatever modeling people are doing these days, you know, soil modeling, plant modeling, water modeling, all kind of modeling, they use basic knowledge of correlation and regression. It is nothing more than that. If you have idea, knowledge of correlation, regression, of course, what I am teaching is very, very primitive, very, very fundamental, very, very starting point of regression. But if you go to the advanced level of this knowledge, there are variety of regressions, but this is just ABCD of this. If we understand this, then we can understand the advanced thing in this area of modeling. So now our objective is to find out the value of A and B, because our equation is y is equal to A plus bx. Now we try to understand the fitting of this equation or find out the predicted line. Just you see this picture. So in this picture, you can see the red points, the red data points. These are the original data. Suppose you have conducted a field experiment. On the right side, you can see the data 0, 20, 40, 60, 80. These were the levels of fertilizer, and you have recorded the data, the yield. Suppose this is the yield in column 2. So in column 1, you have independent variable. In column 2, you have dependent variable. And you have just plotted the graph, and against 0, you have put the red one, this value 15. Against 20, you have put red one, this point 19. And then similarly for 40, 60, and 80. So these red points are the original data. And they have been joined. I have joined them with a solid line. But I cannot join it. I joined it by force, but I cannot join it as per statistical rules. So what I can find one line. I can find a line represented by the dots. Represented by the dots, I can find this line. This is the regression line, and this is actually the fitting. I am fitting a line for this original data or observed data or actual data. This line will give us the predicted value or predicted values, which is represented by small y1, small y2, small y3, and small y4. This is a hypothetical line which is representing these data. This is also called as a regression line. So now you got two respective data points. For example, for control, for 0, you have capital Y0 in blue, which is observed, and a small y0 is your predicted data. Similarly, for y1, you have blue one is your observed data, and black one, small y1, is your expected data or predicted data. So this is how we need to see the distance, the difference between these two. And the line which is giving us the least difference, you can take the distance or difference of these two, square these values, and take the total. And the line which is giving us the least value of this total is the best fit. So you can see on the top, summation y minus y, capital Y minus small y, whole square, means this is the difference between observed data and predicted data. Data which is represented by the line, hypothetical line, and you square it and take the total of individual data, individual pair, and then the total should be minimum. And this is my best fit. This is my best fit line. You can see the things in the next table. In the first column, you have input, that is x, 0, 20, 40, whatever you have. Next column, output. This is your actual data recorded from the field experiment. This is represented by capital Y0, so on. Then expected. This data is for the line. Respective data, suppose it is Y0, Y1, represented by small y. The sum of them should be the difference. Sum of difference you can do. The column number 2 minus column number 3. So Y0 minus small y0 and so on. And then you make the total. You make the sum of square of these values. You make the summation y minus y whole square. You square these individual values of the difference and then make the total. And that total should be minimum. So a line which is giving this minimum total is the best fit. And how to find out this line? That is the problem. If we can find out value of A and B, by default, this line will be the best fit, because it has been developed by some statistician by involving certain statistical procedure. So y is equal to A plus B, Bx is the best fit. In this, we need to find out value of A and B. If we can find out value of A and B, then that particular line will be the best fit. Now, to find the value of A and B, it is important to find out the value of A and B. You need to find out certain parameters, because to find out value of A and B, you need certain parameters. It is regression analysis. So in this first parameter you require is the mean of x. X is your independent variable, that is your input. So summation x upon n. I think you must have learned these things. This is the simplest thing in statistics, knowing the mean. Similarly, mean of dependent variable, mean of y, summation y, you can make the total of y divided by n. Then you need to calculate the corrected sum of square. 3 different corrected sum of square. One is against the mean of x, against the mean of y, and their cross products. So first one is summation x square, represented by small x, is equal to xi minus x bar. From the different levels of input, xi, x1, x2, x3, you need to subtract the mean and square this value and make the total of all the squares. It will give you summation x square. Then similarly, we do the same operation for y, and then for cross products. For cross products, x minus x bar, y minus y bar. You multiply these two, you will get xy and take the sum of all. Then it will be summation xy. So you need to calculate 5 things. One is mean of these two and 3 corrected sum of squares. Then the value of constant ABC. From the previous slide, you have seen various parameters were computed. Now these parameters will be used to calculate the value of A and B. So value of B is summation xy upon summation x square. So by putting these values, we can get the value of B, which is known as regression coefficient. Then value of A is y bar minus bx bar. By this relationship, you can know the value of A, because value of B you have already known from the formula, above formula, and y bar is available, x bar is available, so you can calculate value of A. Now you have worked out the equation because you have worked out the value of A and B. So you can put these values in the equation, you will get the equation. Now question comes whether this equation is genuinely representing a linear relationship, whether it is truly linear or not, how to test it. Now F test will test the linearity of this equation. So to test in F test, I think most of the students know in F test was developed by R.A. Fisher, therefore its name is F test, and it is variation is partitioned. Variability in the data is partitioned into different components in F test. So here the sources of variation for F test are regression. The first source is regression and second source is residual, because you have seen the error was there, and then the total. So degree of freedom, next column in this ANOVA table, analysis of variance, you have regression. So degree of freedom for regression is 1. You can remember the degree of freedom for linear regression is always 1. It is fixed. And degree of freedom for quadratic regression is 2. It is fixed. For cubic, it is 3. So you have no choice. You just put the value depending upon the power of the variable x. In linear, power of the x variable is 1. So degree of freedom, we write 1. In that, you have two variables, x and x square. So put the value of degree of freedom 2 here. Then total, as usual, you know, n minus 1. Here, your data is always in pairs. Data is there in pairs. So n minus 1 is total degree of freedom, means n means number of pairs of observation, and minus 1. So once you have total degree of freedom n minus 1, you can subtract the regression degree of freedom from this. So n minus 1 minus 1, it gives you residual or error degree of freedom. Now next step in ANOVA, analysis of variance table, is total sum of square, or sorry, sum of square due to regression. Sum of square due to regression represented by small y square L. Sum of square due to regression. So formula is summation xy divided by summation x square. These parameters were already calculated. If you remember, just few slides back, we calculated these parameters and just put the value. So you will get sum of square due to regression. Then sum of square, then see the last row where you have total sum of square. So in this is y square, small y square. This is also parameter which is already calculated. You have seen few slides back how this small y square was calculated. This is known as total sum of square. You got dependent variable y, subtract the values of mean from the y values and square those values and make the total. That will be your total sum of square. So residual sum of square or error sum of square, you can work out by the difference. The last total sum of square minus the sum of square due to regression. So last this y square minus the things which are there in the sum of square due to regression can be subtracted. You get residual sum of square. And mean square, you know, it is sum of respective sum of squares divided by degrees of freedom, you get mean square. So the previous column is divided by the respective degrees of freedom, and you get mean square due to regression and mean square due to error, or mean square due to residuals. In the next, you need to calculate the F calculated. So this is your F test. So it is mean square due to regression divided by mean square due to residuals. So you get F calculated value, and then you will have F table value. So in F table, you have two kind of degree of freedom. One you need to see horizontal, other you need to see vertical. So here you need to see F table at 1, n minus 2 degrees of freedom. At 1 and n minus 2 degrees of freedom, you need to see the table value of F at the prescribed level of significance. maybe it can be 1%, it can be 5%. So I think most of the students know how to see these tables, F table, T tables, and so on. So what happens? You can calculate the mean square due to linearity or regression as sum of square due to linearity or regression divided by degree of freedom. Similarly, mean square due to residual you can work out and divide mean square regression or linear regression by mean square due to residual. And you can see the table value at 1 into n minus 2 degree of freedom. If your calculated value is more than the table value, at 5%, say if you consider level of significance, then it is significant. What does it mean? It means that your regression equation is significant, means it is genuinely a linear equation. The data cannot be represented by other kind of relationship. It can be best represented only by linear relationship. So this was the purpose to test the linearity, means we want to be sure that it is statistically or genuinely a linear relationship. Suppose this test was non-significant, then it does not mean that it will not have relationship. The data can have relationship, but maybe of higher order. It can have quadratic or cubic or other forms of polynomials relationship, or maybe there are variety of relationship in statistics. There are so many equations in regression. So this data can have other relationship also if it is not having a linear relationship. So this finishes this part. So I'll take up another presentation. If you have any question in this, you can ask. First you ask your question. I give you 2 minutes time to ask question. So friends, you can learn more. You can learn more by example. Now I will show you one example from which you can learn or you can have better understanding. So this is an example, practical example. A field experiment was conducted by taking different levels of nitrogen in mustard to test its effect on seed yield. From the data given in next table, fit a linear response equation and test it for linearity. This is the problem. And also plot the response curve. Means you need to make a graph from the equation and from the computed equation and perform the correlation analysis. So here is the complete package to understand the theoretical part, how it can be used in practical sense, how we can use this knowledge practically. So this was a practical example. And as you know, you need to work out, you need to compute or calculate certain parameters. Number one, the data is given in column number 1, which is the levels of nitrogen. So you got 0, 40, 80, 120 levels of nitrogen. And the observed yield, the actual yield that was recorded from the field is for 0, it is 17.2, quintals per hectare 18.5, 19.8 and 20.5 quintals per hectare. I intentionally kept in quintal to remember my teacher, Dr. R.R. Patil. R.R. Patil was a statistician who worked in IAR in agronomy department. When I was a student, he was helping us a lot, particularly in this area of correlation and regression analysis. He used to teach. Even he used to teach to work out the optimum economic dose from the Michellik equation. We learnt it, and there were many more things which we learned from him. So it is just my respect to him, and I wish wherever he is, he should be happy. So I still keep in quintals per hectare. Otherwise, you can convert it into tons per hectare. Okay. So this yield is in 17.2 for control, 18.5 for 40 kg, and 19.8 for 80 kg, and 20.5 for 120 kg nitrogen. So this is dependent variable yield. Now you need to work out or calculate several parameters like a small y. This is the a small x. This is the difference between this your x values and the mean of x values. You can take the mean. You can see below how the mean of x is calculated. Summation x upon n. You make the total of 0, 40, 80, 120, which is 240 divided by 4. 4 is the number of pair of observation. Similarly, you worked out the mean of y, which is 19. And then you need to work out x square, small x square. Column number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In column number 5, you have x square. This is the square of the deviations against mean. And you can make the total of x square, which will be summation x square. Here the value is 8,000. I think you can see 8,000, which is summation x square. Next column is multiplication of x and y, small x and y. The deviations against means of x and y, they are multiplied. And you get, that means column number 3 and column number 4 are multiplied to get the column number 6. And then you make the summation of xy. Summation xy will give you 224 here. And then y square, small y square is total sum of square, and which is obtained by squaring the column number 4. Column number 4 can be squared to get the last column. So here you can also make the total of these 4 values, which is 6.38, and this 6.38 is summation y square. Summation is small y square, which is total sum of square. This is 6.38 is total sum of square. 224 is the summation xy, and 8,000 is summation x square, and means are for x mean is 60 and for mean y is 19. Now you see the next slide. From these parameters, just we have seen in the last slide, we can work out value of b. Value of b is summation xy divided by summation x square. Taking the data from the last table, the value is 0.028. Similarly, value of a can be worked out by the difference. Y bar minus bx bar is equal to 19 minus, you put the value of b, just you have calculated 0.028, and then value of x. X is the mean of x, which was 60. So finally, you get 17.32. This is the value of a. This is the value of the intercept. This is also known as intercept, means predicted yield. Predicted yield at control. This is the predicted. And actual yield may be different, which was observed from the field, but it is the predicted yield. So this is the best intercept you could find out. This is the best value of b, regression coefficient, that will give you the most suitable fit or most suitable linear equation, 0.028. Now, as the linear equation is y is equal to 17.32 plus 0.028x, which needs to be tested for linearity. Now, our job is to test it for linearity, whether the two variables are really following a linear relationship or have some other kind of relationship. Friends, at this point of time, I want to tell you that testing the linearity means actually testing the significance of the regression coefficient, which is b. We are actually testing whether this regression coefficient is significant or not. That is the actual meaning of testing the significance of the linear equation. Then to test the linearity, you go for ANOVA, analysis of variance. I have shown you using F-test. And sum of square, mean square, total sum of squares are computed. You can see in the next table. So summation y square, I think you remember. Sum of square due to linearity. The formula is like this, or sum of square due to regression. So there are two sources of variation in ANOVA. Two sources of variation in ANOVA. One source is regression. Other source is your residual. So here I am writing for regression SSL here, just to make a distinction between sum of square due to residual. So this is sum of square due to linearity or sum of square due to regression. So it can be worked out by summation xy whole square divided by summation x square. Putting the values of the parameters, you get 6.27. It is sum of square due to regression. And residual is by difference method. From the data in table where we calculated these parameters, I repeatedly or very prominently told you total sum of square is y square. You can take the value from there, which was 6.38, and put the value of xy and x square, and you get 0.11. So sum of square due to residual or due to error is your 0.11, and sum of square due to regression is 6.27. Now you see mean square you can calculate by dividing the sum of square by respective degrees of freedom. So you get 6.27 as mean square for regression, and mean square for residual or error is 0.055. Now you need to calculate the f value, which is mean square due to regression divided by mean square due to residual. So 6.27 divided by 0.055, 114 is the calculated value of t, calculated value of f. Now you know degrees of freedom is 1 and n minus 2. So at 1 and 2 degrees of freedom, you need to see f table value of f at 5%. Normally we see at 5%. If you like, you can see at 1% also, depending upon your interest. And then if your calculated value is greater than the table value, then the equation is significant. Then your regression coefficient B is proved to be significant. Means the equation is genuinely a linear equation. If it is non-significant, means the calculated value is less than the table value, then it is non-significant, means it is not showing any linear relationship. The regression coefficient B is not a linear regression coefficient. So now you can see the same thing in the data. You can put sources of variation is linear or regression. Instead of linear, please understand it is regression. It is regression and residual. So for regression, degree of freedom is fixed. This is 1. And total pair were 4. So 4 minus 1, total degree of freedom is 3. And then you can calculate for the residual. Total degree of freedom is 3, and for linear 1. So 3 minus 1, you get 2 degree of freedom for residuals. Sum of square, you have seen in the last slide how these sum of square due to regression and residual were computed. And also you can see total sum of square, which is 6.38. And mean square is by dividing degree of freedom 6.27.055. And then F calculated 6.27 divided by 0.055, it is 114. Then F table is 18.51 at 5% level and 98.4149 at 1% level. So in this case, you can see the inference on comparing the calculated value to the table value at 1 and 2 degrees of freedom. The linear relationship is highly significant both at 1% as well as at 5%. If it is significant at 1%, that means it is definitely significant at other higher levels which are higher than 1%, it is definitely significant. So it has been proved that this particular equation is a linear equation. So now we can plot the equation. Next, now we have equation y is equal to a plus bx. We have tested it is linear. If it is linear, then you need to know two data values. One is you need to know y minimum. Y minimum is equal to a plus bx minimum. Y minimum means you can put the value of 0, x min. Means you need to have 2 points. One is the lowest point, other is the highest point. So here y minimum, the predicted yield for minimum is 17.32. Similarly, the highest level of x is 120. X max and x min. X min is 0 and x max, highest level of input X fertilizer is 120. Lowest level is 0. So here you put value 120 to know Y max, maximum value of Y. So this is, we are putting values of X in the equation. so that we can get value of y minimum and y maximum. So you get 17.32 and 20.68. So in this case, just take x-axis, y-axis. You can do it manually also on a chart paper or graph, and you just make 2 points y max. Y max is the last distant point, and this y min is on axis because y min is your intercept. So you can join these 2 points. There is no need to have other points. Just you join these 2 points, and you will get the regression equation plotted. And it is a habit of people or convention to write the equation on the line. So you can write the equation y is equal to 0.028x plus 17.32. On y-axis, you have grain yield, N levels, and this is linear response curve. So friends, this is another way of showing another linear response curve. You can see all the points or data points are passing through the line. And this line is passing through all the data points. And see, the R square is 1. This means R square has some relationship with this line. I will tell you later, but just now you see, if R square is 1, this line is crossing exactly passing through all the points. And no point is away from the line. And then you see value of y is equal to 2x plus 1. So intercept is 1, and the correlation regression coefficient is 2 here. So 2 means delta y upon delta x. So if you make change of 1 in x, change of 1 unit in x, there is change of 2 units in y. Change of 2 units in y. That is the meaning of this 2, which is b, or regression coefficient. You can observe in this particular graph that if you change 1 unit in x, and you can see yourself how much is the change in y. So there may be for unit 2, you can see unit 2 you have data point 5. So that means 1 is your intercept. So there is 4 unit change due to 2. And then you divide 4 by 2, you get 1. You get 2. 2 2 is 4. So you get 2 as the regression coefficient, which is known as B. So please try to understand this picture. And then there are certain characteristics of this graphical representation. Please pay your kind attention more now. From this section, many type of quiz questions are asked in your competitive examination. So just be a little more attentive now to see the characteristics of this graphical representation. Sorry. So you can see the characteristic number 1. The line must be drawn within the range of the values of x and x min and x max. You cannot extrapolate. You cannot go away from this range. And also predictions are made within this x range. The line must pass through the means of both the variables x and y. This line must cross means of x and y. The slope of the line is b, which is also called as linear regression coefficient. The line is, if extended, must intersect the y-axis at the value of a. You have seen that it is intersecting the y-axis at the at the zero value of x. Now the coefficient of determination, at the moment just you learn how we can compute the correlation coefficient, or how we can compute coefficient of determination. At the moment you understand that correlation coefficient is just telling you the strength of relationship between two variables. Now if you square it, if you make the square, it becomes coefficient of determination. Or other way around, if you have coefficient of determination known, if you know it is r square, you can take the under root of this. Then you can find out correlation coefficient. This is the understanding. Another point is that sometimes you write it by small letter, sometimes you write it by capital letter. So a small letter is, there is no distinction, there is no difference between whether you write a small r or capital R, or a small r square or capital R square. but generally statisticians use capital R for multiple correlation coefficient or capital R square for multiple regression analysis, or this simple R means this small r means simple correlation and regression, and capital R is multiple correlation and regression without any genuine difference. So it is your choice to use. If you use small r, capital R, it does not make a difference. So don't worry about it. You can use either. But these days, people or Excel, most of the time they are using capital R for correlation coefficient and capital R square for coefficient of determination. So don't worry. If you use small r or capital R, it is not going to make a difference. The values will remain same. Now you can know more about relationship between correlation coefficient and coefficient of determination. The value of R lies, you remember correlation coefficient value ranges from -1 to +1. Extreme values indicate the perfect linear association, and the mid values means value somewhere around 0.2, -1, something like that. Middle value which are close to 0 represent the lower correlation coefficient, lower values of the correlation coefficient. Higher the values, higher is the correlation coefficient. The sign plus minus is only for direction of change. It is just kind of relationship you have, whether positive or negative relationship. It tells you that. Don't take the exact meaning of this minus sign. Take it as a positive or negative correlation only. The values, the exact value will tell you. If it is minus 0.999, it is very high value. So it is very high value. So that means it is highly significant. Normally it will be highly significant. So for example, with an R value of 0.9, the implication is that you can square this value. This will become 81 and multiplied by 100. So it becomes 81%. So 81% of the variation. Square the value means that will be your correlation coefficient of determination. Coefficient of determination in this case will be 0.81. 0.81, and you multiply it by 100, then it becomes your 81%. It becomes your 81%. That means 81% of the variation in the variable y can be explained by the linear function of the variable x. This is the interpretation. The minus or plus sign attached to the R value indicates the direction of change in one variable related to the change in other variable. So we will continue. Now we can break, and I will request you to come back by 12:20. 12:20 we will start, and now you can have tea, and then we will discuss for 1 hour more. So I can stop the recording, or you can ask your question when we start. Okay.